Zoning Administrator, Mr. Joey Hargis.
All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Metropolitan Board of Zoning Appeals is now in session for its regularly scheduled meeting of October 21st, 2021. I'm Joey Hargis, Metro Zoning Administrator, and I'll be presenting the cases for review in today's public hearing. I do ask before we get started, if you'll please put your cell phones on silent or vibrate so as not to interrupt today's proceedings. The board would appreciate it. The board is empowered to act on cases before you today as outlined in Section 1740, 180 of the Metro Code of Law. The procedure will be for staff to introduce the case, and we'll do that on the screen here by means of a PowerPoint presentation. And once I'm done presenting, I'll invite the applicants to come first to the table. At your table, you'll see a microphone. There's two buttons there. If you'll hit the right one, you'll notice a red ring around the mic like this. If that's on, the mic's hot and you're ready to talk. When you get done presenting, if you'll hit that button again and turn it off, we'd appreciate it. Today, in cases without opposition, applicants will have 5 minutes to present their testimony to the board. In cases with opposition, each side of a case, that's the applicants and opposition, have 10 minutes in total to present their case to the board. Again, that's 10 minutes total, not per speaker. So if there's multiple speakers, y'all be sure to divide your time accordingly before you come up to the table. The board will discuss and vote on each case before you today. And then in the event that we have a situation like today, I believe we've got 5 members present, expecting a 6th. But in today's vote, if only these 5 members hear a case and vote on the case, and you do not achieve 4 affirmative votes or 4 yes votes, this case will stay on our agenda for the next 30 days. At the next meeting, any of those 5 members who participated are allowed to change their vote. The 2 members who did not participate can watch the tape of the proceedings and become eligible to participate at its next meeting. It should be noted that if anyone's presented false or misleading testimony to this board that may have affected this board's decision, any approval can be revoked by means of a show cause hearing. Also, any aggrieved party of today's result, it has the right to appeal by a common law writ of certiorari in Chancery or Circuit Court within 60 days of today's public hearing. After that 60 days has elapsed, this board's decision is final and no further action can be taken. Mr. Chairman, I've got a couple preliminary announcements before we get started. Dealing with today's agenda. One case on our agenda at the bottom of page 2, case 2021-139, Catalyst Design Group at 745 22nd North Court. That case has been deferred. The agenda says December 2nd. It's actually to November the 18th is when that case has been postponed to. So if you're here for case 139, that case will be heard on November the 18th and will not be heard today. That's all in the preliminary announcements I have. As it relates to a consent agenda, this board does have a consent agenda. And prior to today's hearing, the chair comes in and reviews the cases with staff and recommends cases to the consent agenda to the other members of the board. I'm going to go ahead and call out those cases. If you're here in opposition and only opposition, raise your hand to the cases I call. The first case recommended for consent agenda is case 2021-137, Alan Hughes at 1024 Tulip Blossom Road, requesting variances in side and rear setback to construct screened end porch over an existing deck. Are there any parties here opposed to case 137? Mr. Chairman, I see none. The next case recommended for consent is case 2021-138, Marion George, the appellant, St. John Chrysostom Romanian Orthodox Church, the owner of the property at 4112 Union Street, requesting a special exception to construct a fellowship hall addition. Are there any parties present opposed to case 138? Mr. Chairman, I see none. And the final case recommended for consent agenda is case 2021-141, Ken Knuckles, appellant, Maruti Corp., owner of the property at 925 Lebanon Pike, requesting a variance in the maximum allowable square footage for a convenience market in IWD. Are there any parties opposed to case 141? Mr. Chairman, I see none. That is your consent agenda.
All right, we have a motion for consent. Is there a second? Have a motion, have a second. Any discussion?
Does the consent for the church, does that include the landscape buffer that's recommended by planning?
The consent for the church should, and I emailed Lisa today to make sure that both conditions for planning were part of that motion on the church, which I think was to make sure that they had adequate parking, which they didn't come and ask for a variance, so we'd assumed that they would have adequate parking, and then I think the buffer's also required, and they didn't ask for relief on that too.
Okay.
So if they were to add, so it does come with those two criteria, with those two conditions, and if they find the need to want a variance, they'd have to come back and ask that specifically for those things.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. Your order will be entered with those two conditions upon it.
All right, thank you for pointing that out. So to have a motion and a second, is there any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? The motion passes.
Okay, if you were here for cases 137, 138, or 141, your cases have been granted. You are free to leave. You're also free to hang out with us if you like to. So no one ever takes me up on that. So, all right. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll call the first case today. Our first case that will be heard is case 2021-129, Mr. Craig Simpson, appellant, Stonehouse Construction, owners of the property at 223 Marcia Avenue, requesting a variance in street setbacks in the R6 district to construct a new single-family residence referred to the board under Section 1712-030C. The appellant has alleged the board would have jurisdiction under Section 1740-180, Item B. I see the appellants are present. Are there any parties present opposed to case 129? Mr. Chairman, I see none. Gentlemen, when I call upon you, come forward and you'll have 5 minutes to present your case to the board. But let me explain kind of why we're here. The subject property is located on the west margin of Marcia Avenue, just west of Hill Circle, if you're familiar with the Hill Circle area. Subject property is located in red. The nature of the request, and I'll come back to this slide in just a minute, is a street setback variance. Remind members of the board, our street setbacks are determined by a contextual street setback average of the four closest residences to the subject property. I'm going to drop the lights just a little bit so you can see that screen a little better. In this case, the two structures that are subject to the contextual setback are here to the north where my cursor is moving, and this structure to the south. Based upon those setbacks of those two structures, the required setback is 41.7 feet. The applicant is requesting a 20-foot setback. Our office had discussions with the applicant recently about the proposal. The applicant actually owns one of the two lots. These two structures will be going away in the not-too-distant future. So this is a view of the subject lot upon our visit. And then views to either side. This is be the one home that's the context to the south of the property. The home north you really can't see from the street there. And then in the right-hand photo, views looking north on Hill Circle. There. This is the proposed site plan elevation. But at that, I'll leave this here. With that, gentlemen, I'll turn it over to you. If you'll come forward, please. State your names for the record. And let the board know what your hardship is here.
Good afternoon, members of the board, chairman. My name is Doug Simpson. I live at 6018 Hill Circle.
My name is Gordon Simpson, and I live at 7726 Indian Springs Drive.
We're requesting the front setback variance for our property. We're getting ready to build. The house to the left is a double wide that's getting ready to come out. I've been working with the owners of that, trying to get it out of there for a while now, and it's close. They're getting ready to apply for permits to build right there. The house to the north, to the right, the little house I own, and it's a little rental house. It'll come out probably in a year or so. And right now we've got a steep lot, and we're requesting to pull it forward to 20 feet because of the steepness. It helps a lot to be able to build and driveways and things like that. Be able to get closer to the street. The further back we are, the higher the foundation has to go, which makes it very difficult and a lot more expense. And I think that's about it, unless you've got,
Well, pushing it back further also would increase, the impervious, sorry, due to the driveways, approximately 340, 350 square feet. So that definitely helps with, stormwater, as well, and of course,
mic down,
I'm sorry, what's that?
put your mic down.
Sorry. And of course, you know, additional stormwater mitigation, things would have to be done, and leading to potential, depending on how that works out, potential, tree removal, which we don't want to do any further back, than it already was. So, that's about it too.
Okay.
Any questions from the board?
How are you planning to access, it looks like a garage towards the center of the plan?
That one, we've got a driveway going down the hill. That's more of, he drew a car in it, but it's more of a, for lawnmowers and things, be able to cut the back half of the property. That lot, is able to be HPR'd, and we decided to leave it as one full lot just because of the steepness, and we think it'll be a better property, not splitting it. But yeah, there'll be a driveway down the right, and then the main parking and garage is in the front at street level.
So I know it works better to build it closer to the road. I get it. You can do more with it. But what is the hardship?
The topography, basically. It's just
And-
really hard. Everything up on Hill Circle is pretty steep, so.
Quite steep. The steepness is right in the front, is the primary.
Just wanted to clarify something. I think I saw something in the packet about, there's one asking for a 20-foot variance, one asking for a 25-foot variance, or for a setback of 20 versus 25 feet. Which one are you?
That was actually a incorrect piece with the 25. It was the 20. I'd gotten some information from our site plan engineer and things like that, and it was inaccurate information that I had requested because I didn't know really how the process was working, going back and forth.
Okay.
And so I told her to disregard that when I sent it in to Lisa Minton, I believe, to disregard that one.
So
It was the 20.
you're asking for a 20-foot, just to, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. The houses on either side, you know, like we said earlier, those are gonna go away. And if you look at the whole, hill, all the way around that hill, generally the houses are about 20, 21, 25 feet at most, that are up there. So it fits
All the new
with the,
construction.
it fits with the development of that, area as well.
And you said that, I think I heard you say that the closer it is to the street, the less trees will need to be removed?
Correct, yeah.
Is there any hardship regarding unsuitable soils by moving it back on site or anything like that? Is there like a issue if you move it back on site at all?
There's no structural issues, with exception of a couple of the trees that were taken out. The stumps are still there, so that might force those to have to come out. But other than that,
Any other questions? Anything else to add? Do you all have anything else to add?
I don't think so. I think that was it.
Okay. All right, we will close public hearing.
I have a question for staff. So if these two houses that are adjacent are demolished, then would they need this variance at all?
They would not, no,
They
sir.
would not. Okay.
Well, and didn't they testify that they own both of those houses too?
Did they testify they will be demolishing?
Yeah. It's, at some point, I mean, that's the plan. It's not imminent, but it is the plan.
I don't have any questions. I wasn't sure if Joseph had a question since his light's on.
Oh, I asked it about the driveway, sorry.
That's okay. I will say that given the fact that the variance is not needed if those two houses to be demolished were actually demolished, and the fact that trees will be saved, and looking at this view here, contextually, other homes are closer to the street than this contextual street setback. I would vote in favor of the variance.
Is that a motion?
Me to make a motion, sure. Yes, that will be a motion to approve the variance for those reasons.
I'll second it.
Yeah, there's a motion, and there's a second, and we're still flashing it. All right, have a motion, have a second. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. I wish you good luck. And we will hear our last case of the day at 1:16. That's never happened.
Can we take some off the consent agenda?
Yeah, exactly. Everybody feels like they to earn their volunteer pay, right?
Just for the record, Mr. Chairman, other boards of zoning appeals across the state are paid, but
The what?
other BZAs across the state are actually paid, but.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yes. Anyway, not to start any problems with, anyway. The final case of the day, case 2021-140, Nashville Phase 2 Property Holder LLC is the appellant, owner of the property at 1125 4th Avenue South, requesting a variance in allowable signage in the SP Zone District to install signage on the back of the former sound scoreboard. Referred to the board under section 1732-110, the appellant has alleged jurisdiction under section 1740-180, item B. I know the applicants are present. Are there any parties opposed to the case present? There are none. Gentlemen, you'll have 5 minutes when I get done with my portion of the presentation. The subject property is located on the northwest margin of Chestnut Street and 4th Avenue South. This is the aerial or pictometry of the site taken March of this year. There's the sign in question. You're familiar with the old Nashville Sounds scoreboard at Greer Stadium. That sign was moved to this property. This board granted a variance on the front portion of the sign to do the allowable square footage. The applicant initially submitted a request to put signage on the rear of the photograph. Let me switch to that. And their original proposal included LED lights on that. They have withdrawn the lighting portion of this request. So all that's before this board is the sign size variance. And they're requesting a total of 215 square feet of the signage area. And this is a view of the back of the sign. Again, site plan, location of the sign, views from the area there looking back toward the site. Gentlemen, that's what I have. If you'll come forward, please, and state your names for the board. We had conversations with Councilman Colby Sledge, and he is supportive of the request without the lighting. So that was the last message I had from him as of yesterday.
All right, if you would, state your name and address and tell us what you're trying to do.
Sure. Pablo David, representative for AJ Capital, 429 Chestnut. So just a little history behind all this. Before we purchased the sign through Metro Nashville auction, the sign was going to be scrapped. And so just given the history and the connection that so many Nashvillians have to it, we really did want to preserve it and try to convert it into artwork. We come before you today with support from two community groups, both SNAP and TAG, along with Councilman Sledge support. Ultimately, the hardship here is that, this sign is massive, and I don't think code ever thought of a sign this big. Ultimately, what we want to do is just create another piece of artwork on the back side of it. The back side, compared to where it was sitting before, is much more visible, and we think that this would really benefit the community and just make it a sort of landmark to live right there at the border of Chestnut Hill and Wedgwood, Houston. Thank you.
Great. I drove by chance, not specifically for this hearing, a week or so ago, and I have to say, if you haven't been down that street since you got your construction project mostly done, it's a little shocking and impressive how giant this facility is. So, and I guess it's Live Nation, or what? Tell me what's going to go on in the facility.
Yeah, so well, you can actually go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, so the buildings that are currently on site are office buildings, mass timber. Live Nation actually occupied their building closest to the guitar sign a couple weeks ago. So they're moved in and conducting business there. And then the parking garage, just on the other side of the sign in that photograph, is under construction, slated to be complete mid-February. And then the final piece will be a 10-story apartment building.
Oh, wow. It's a major project. I mean, it's really something to see if you haven't been down there. And in driving, and again, I shared kind of the concerns when we first reviewed the case, all the cases for consent with the illumination, and then it was, I thought then the guitar on the back would enhance the sign. It really is dead black space right now, and and I was a little concerned about the illumination and what LED does to at night and that kind of thing. But with that taken away, I think it probably be a nice addition. But it's a really nice, big, massive project you all have completed on that corner.
Brandon, talk about the area out in front, like what it's going to be used for, and like what the look is for that, just because they probably don't know what that looks like.
Sure, yeah. So if you looked at the site kind of in quadrants, office building, parking garage, ultimately the residential, and then the final piece under that sign is a green space park area where the shipping containers are. We have a small little stage set up there to be able to host community events, live music performances. Cool. That's all open and able for community members to walk through and around.
Okay, great. Are there any questions for the applicant?
So you're applying for a variance. What, can you state some kind of hardship? Why you need this? Why this variance applies?
Well, I think it's a unique set of circumstances, just given the sheer size of the sign, the fact that we're preserving something that's pretty special to a lot of people, and that we just want to enhance the neighborhood with that sign.
Any other questions? Anything else to add?
Not at this time, thank you.
All right, we will close the public hearing. The thought on hardship, I mean, I get, and yet at the same time, this is the Old Nashville Sounds sign that is historic and unique, and I think that it's not, if anybody came and said, hey, I just want to, add a big old square billboard and, and have something painted on the back of, I don't think planning would have approved it, which they've done twice. Not only they approved or sent an approval for it to be moved originally, I think that they did this time too, and I may be wrong on that. Yeah, they did. And so, I think that just, to me, is testimony to the uniqueness of this specific sign. So, I was really pleased again with, we only see the docket when it first comes out, and I didn't know what they were asking for, and we've all seen the sign at the current Sound Stadium, and we've seen the old Sound sign, and I thought, oh man, they're gonna want LED on the back of that with all kinds of, stuff, and boy, that's gonna drive the neighbors crazy. And then I saw this really cool guitar that they wanted to paint on it, and I thought, that's really gonna be cool for that neighborhood and for their project. So I think for all those reasons, I think it's a pretty good idea.
I think definitely, I agree, there's very unique characteristics that are at play.
My only concern is, okay, what they plan on it today and what it could be down the road. I mean, I'd hate to see a psychedelic something painted on the side that's out there for everybody. Not that I'm an art critic by any stretch of the imagination. That would be my only concern. I mean, it's guitar, I agree with you.
Well,
It's-
how about
it's
let me
great.
throw out something, and just to say that I'll move that we approve the variance on the conditions that that side not be illuminated as originally proposed through LED lighting, and that if it substantially changes from the proposal as presented, and that would be up to the judgment of the code staff and zoning administrator, if it changed substantially, then they would be required to come back to us for an additional variance.
Second.
Have a motion and have a second. Does that meet everybody's concerns? And that's. All right, well, thank you. Have a motion, have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Wish you the best of luck, and with that, at
We're not planning
1:26,
on it.
earliest in 10 years, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.